Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day, everyone. So, for this week, I would like to discuss. Basically, this lecture is me explaining and discussing on persuasive speech. And as you know, persuasive speech is your second speech or your second assessment for ELC 590. So basically, we'll be looking at what is a persuasive speech, what are the types of persuasive speech that you can explore in order for you to brainstorm a topic, how to brainstorm the topic of your persuasive speech, and how to structurize your persuasive speech based on the Monroes motivated sequence. Now, bear in mind that there's a huge difference between informative speech and persuasive speech. So basically, if you are listening to my lecture, that means you are done with the first assessment, that is your informative speech. Now we are moving towards a persuasive speech. We are going to apply the same basic techniques that I have taught and shared the lectures before for informative speech. But nonetheless, when it comes to the content of your persuasive speech, it will be slightly different. And the whole concept of informative and persuasive speech is different. Now let us look at what is a persuasive speech. Persuasive speech is a speech that persuades the audience about something. It comes from the word persuade. It's a verb. Persuade means that you are luring people to agree with your notion, to agree with your point. You are hoping to advise people, you're hoping to move people's stance when it comes to certain issues or when it comes to certain things. And of course, it is biased by nature because you want them to agree with you. Now, if we were to refer back or if we were to compare with informative speech, on the other hand, is very neutral in nature. You are just informing people about something, but this time around, you're persuading people. So, of course, the topic has to be argumentative in nature in a sense that it has two sides of it, or two sides of the coin. Um, Therefore, you need to somehow inform your audience where you stand on, and at the same time, you need to persuade your audience to uh, go with your stand or to go with whatever that you to agree with your notion. After listening to the speech, your audience will either be persuaded by or will not be persuaded by. So some of the topics that you can just that you can just go through here. Now there are three types of persuasive speech. That is the question of fact, the question of value, and the question of policy. Now we'll start with the first one, the question of fact. Now this type of persuasive speech allows the speaker to challenge certain matters that have been considered as facts. Now some samples of the topic are the truth behind the great literary works during Elizabethan era, Shakespeare or someone else. Now we all know that basically we all know who William Shakespeare is, but of course there is a group of people who believe that William Shakespeare did not exist. Actually, it was a work of somebody else, and apparently, according to them, it seemed that it was the work of the Queen Elizabeth I. But because she was the queen and she wanted she didn't want the people to know that she was the one behind all those great literary works. She decided to come up with a name in order to camouflage her and also her involvement in literary writings. So she came out with the figure or with the name of William Shakespeare. So you are basically questioning the fact, although it is a fact that William Shakespeare existed, that his works existed, his works are real. When you begin to question the fact, you are actually persuading people to go according to your notion, what you believe in, and this whole concept is questioning the fact. And there are a few other facts that you may want to explore for you to question, like Hang Tuah, a myth or a fact, or did man actually land on the moon, or was it a hoax? So those are the things. Next is the question of value. So instead of questioning fact, maybe you can also question the value. Question of value is you challenge certain values in life. For example, capital punishment, a degrading value among civilized people. In Malaysia, we are still practicing capital punishment. That means you can be sentenced to death, you can be hanged. If let's say there are certain things or certain laws that you disobeyed, you can be sentenced to death. But in other countries, they don't believe in capital punishment. They believe in behavior corrections, or they believe in putting the prisoner, or putting the murderers or robbers in the prison, correct their behaviors up to a certain point, then release them back again to the society. So when you are questioning certain values, you are basically, persuading people to agree with your notion. Yeah. Other topics that you can explore, like, is smoking a human right, teenage abortion, between family humiliation and a mother's right, so on and so forth. And the last one is questions of policies. So when few policies that you can question is like abusing management power, discussing workplace matters after working hours, or 3-month leaves for fathers to be, or going to overseas one's right or a privilege. Those are the things that you can, question. So basically, when you begin to question certain things, you are actually moving towards the path of persuasion, or the path of persuasive speech. So persuasive speech requires you to come up with your own stance on certain issues, and you are persuading people to actually agree with you on that notions. Yeah. Now, how to brainstorm the topic? We basically use the same method as how we did for informative speech. That is to come up with a general purpose, then we move on to specific purpose, then central idea, and eventually topic. Now, this is a given example here. Of course, the general purpose of for persuasive speech is to persuade. And in this case, if you were to narrow it down to specific purpose, you would like to persuade your audience the use of bicycles as the mean of transportation in the campus. So basically, that is your purpose, to persuade people to use bicycles. Then you narrow it down to central idea. Remember, this central idea is a one sentence that contains all three main aspects for your content. So using bicycle in the campus will not help to reduce, sorry, will help to reduce, yeah, not help to, will help to reduce traffic congestion. Okay, the sentence is correct, sorry. Will not only help to reduce traffic congestion, but also to help protecting the environment, as well as to reduce time consumption. There are three things that I would like to discuss in my persuasive speech about using bicycles in the campus. These three things are mentioned in my central ideas. You can see there are 3 points there. And then of course I, reword again my central idea together with my specific purpose to come up with a catchy title perhaps, and or topic. So this is basically the topic that I have with me: riding bicycle around the campus, and in fact an effective transportation. So this is how you brainstorm. Okay, you brainstorm your topic, and you have to go through the same process, and you have to go through all levels of the in that process. Okay. Now, before we move on to the samples of writing the so-called persuasive speech, I would like to introduce you with this new subtopic, which is Monroe's motivated sequence. Now, it is compulsory. I repeat, it is compulsory for you to use Monroe's motivated sequence in your persuasive speech. Now, what is basically a Monroe's motivated sequence? It's basically a sequence that was developed in 1930s by Alan Monroe, a professor of speech in Purdue University in United States. The motivated sequence is tailor-made for policy speeches that seek immediate action. Basically, Monroe came up with this idea with a sequence. There are 5 components in that sequence, where you need to have all 5 components in your persuasion in order to secure, or in order to convince your readers, your audience, to agree with you, or at least to be persuaded by your idea. So there are 5 steps, or there are 5 components, yeah, or 5 criteria, or 5 aspects that you have to have in your speech. What are those 5? First, you need to have attention in your speech. Sounds familiar? Remember that I talked about attention grabber? So basically, it's the same thing. Number two, you must also establish some needs in your persuasion. Number three, you must satisfy your audience. Number four, you must be able to visualize the whole issue to your audience or to your readers or to anyone that you would like to persuade. And of course, the last one is to come up with an action. After persuading people, there must be an action. What you plan to do after that. So all of these five aspects must be included in your speech. So this is how you're going to do. Remember, your speech is a 5-paragraph essay with the first paragraph being the introduction, 3 paragraphs as the body contents, and the last paragraph acts as the conclusion. So you must include all 5 in all 5 paragraphs. So basically, attention falls for first paragraph in your introduction, need must be in your second paragraph, first body content, satisfaction in your third paragraph, second body content, visualization in your fourth paragraph, third body content, and of course, action must be in your final paragraph, that is your conclusion. So this is how you arrange all these 5 aspects of 5 actions or 5 sequence in your speech. So basically, I do not want to elaborate in details because this is just sample that you can read on your own, how to write attention, what is basically attention, and how to have attention in your introduction. So I've already given you with the sample. And also I note that it has to be in your introduction, and the same thing for need, the same thing for sample, and all the way through up until action. I'm not going to explain because this is just a sample, but you can go through, you can refer to my lecture notes in order for you to understand this. Yeah. So after having your speech delivered to your audience, you can actually gauge, the degree of your persuasion if you want to. You may want to start this first before you deliver your speech, and then right after you have delivered your speech, you may want to measure again. So this measurement helps you to determine whether or not the audience is persuaded by your speech. Okay, so that is all.